Hello aspirants, welcome to IAS Icons by Unacademy. This is me Shubham Sardhalia and we are continuing with our discussion for NCERTs. Due to some reasons I wasn't able to take the classes for last some time, but now these classes you will be getting on daily basis. So we were discussing about the class 6th history NCERT, and today's topic of discussion will be our chapter number 8. All those who have joined us for the first time, I just want to tell you that we have been discussing NCERTs and we'll be discussing each and every NCERT for the examination, for the UPSC examination, because at times NCERT becomes the most confusing part for an aspirant, that which NCERTs are to be read, which are the topics which should be covered. So putting an end to all your doubts, I'll be discussing each and everything that is important from NCERTs and is required by us to read, to memorize and to understand. Before we proceed further, I just want to tell you, since you are attending this class, which means that you are preparing for UPSC CSE examination, start your preparation with India's largest learning platform, that is Unacademy. Sir, we at Unacademy offer you widest choice of educators. We give you comprehensive notes, live mentorship, dedicated doubt solving session. In short, all these features end up in helping you to qualify this examination. You can start your preparation under the guidance of top educators of the country. My name is Shubham Sardhalia. I am educator and mentor for this UPSC CSE preparation. Sir, for a very limited period of time, we are offering you up to 20% of discount, that if you enroll before 12 a.m. today, you will be able to get massive discounts of 20% on all our courses by using this code IAS Icons. So you should not forget to use this code IAS Icons. Our batches are starting very soon. On regular basis you will be getting the classes. Complete syllabus will be covered. For all those who are unable to pay the entire amount at once, you can opt for the 0% EMI option, where you can get the courses at easy monthly installments. So you have to pay a small amount every month and you can enroll with us. Simultaneously, we are offering you discounts on EPFO course also from 11th to 14th October. Again, with the help of this code IAS Icons, if you enroll, you get 20% off on these courses. We are bringing for you Compete, Battle and Know Where You Stand. You can get a chance to win a laptop and prizes worth 2 lakh rupees. It's coming very soon on our Android app. Apart from that, we are bringing for you Unacademy Ultra Combat on October 22nd, 11 a.m. Saturday. If you compete in this combat, you score a high rank, you can win exciting prizes like laptops, mobiles and scholarships on our subscription. So this is a very much golden opportunity for all of you to avail scholarships and amazing prizes. Unacademy Civil Services Championship, we have again brought it back for you. You can win scholarships from a pool prize of more than 40 crore rupees. The top five rankers will get a chance to meet and greet with IAS officers. This will be a MCQ type question which will be conducted on November 13 at 11 a.m. Our test series are there for you. You can opt for our mains test series. You can opt for optional test series. All this only at Unacademy if you use this code IAS Icons. We are providing you notes also. We are giving you the optional subscriptions also with the top faculty. You can prepare for your optionals, interview guidance. In short, I'll tell you that each and everything that is required to qualify this UPSC civil service examination, we at Unacademy are providing you. Coming on to our discussions, we are discussing about 6th class NCERT history. So this is the chapter 8 which we will be discussing, vital villages and thriving towns. So before that we discussed about Mahajanpadas, Janpadas, kingdoms. We discussed about the Emperor Ashoka. These Mahajanpadas, or these big kingdoms, came into existence because of small villages. What do we see in a kingdom? Do we see in a Mahajanpada? Mahajanpada is a larger area which is controlled by a king. A kingdom is a large area controlled by a king, and in that large area you find small villages. The collection of villages, the community of villages ultimately form the Mahajanpadas or the empires. So we'll be talking about certain vital villages and the towns that were coming up during those ages. The most important thing that came up during these times was the use of iron tools and agriculture. We need to remember around 3000 years ago from now, we saw the use of agricultural tools for the first time. So for the first time, we saw use of iron in around 3000 years ago, and about 2500 years ago, like 3000 years ago, iron came into use, and 500 years later iron tools were being used. The use of iron tools increased. People were using tools like axes for clearing forest, expanding land. They were using iron plow to increase production. So these things happened with the help of iron. When the use of iron came into existence, eventually people started realizing that iron can be used to make certain helpful tools which will help them in agriculture. Now, with the agriculture, I told you in earlier classes also that agriculture led to the development of settled life. The settlements began to develop. So settlements were different in northern India, different settlements were different in southern India, but the common thing that remained was the land, because the utmost priority, utmost requirement for you to practice agriculture was the land. So we had landowners and laborers. In the south, large landowners, we are talking about the southern part of India, we need to remember each and every word. I request you to please note it down somewhere. There was a term known as velalar. So these velalars were whom? They were the large landowners of southern India, southern part of India. The people who owned large chunk of land were known as velalars. Then we had plowmen. They were known as Izava. So we need to remember, sir, Velalar were the large landowners. Then there were people who were plowing the fields of these large landowners. They were Izavas. Then there were landless laborers and slaves. So people who had no land were known as Kadaisiyar and Adimai, who were slaves. So we need to remember, I may be different in pronunciation for all those who belong to southern India. They may know the pronunciation in a better way, but these are the terms we need to remember, because it would be a very obvious question in examination sometime that these terms, they will give you one of the term, what was the meaning of this term. So we need to remember, sir, Kadasayar were the landless laborers, Adimai were the slaves, Velalar were large landowners, Izava was the plowman in southern India. Simultaneously in northern India also we had certain people and certain titles. So in northern India, the village headman, he was the person who was heading the village, he was the person who was richest in the village, who owned the largest chunk of land. He was called as the village headman, and his name was Gram Bojka. So he was named as Gram Bojka. Again, I guess this was asked in a question sometime. Gram Bojka was a term used for village headman who was holding a hereditary position. What it meant, that if today one person is Gram Bojaka, after his death his son would be the Gram Bojaka, after his death his son would be the Gram Bojaka. So it was a hereditary position. He was the biggest landowner, just like the largest landowner in southern India was Velalar. In northern part of India it was Gram Bojaka. He was the biggest landowner, and he was used by the king to collect taxes. So king realized that he is the headman of village, he has the control over village, people of the village follow him. He acted as the judge in the village, he acted as the policeman in the village. So anybody in the village had any problem, any dispute, anything, he would simply reach out to Gram Bojka. So he was an influential man, and king realized this, that Gram Bojka was an influential man. So king decided that he would appoint this Gram Bojka to collect taxes on king's behalf. So now king was not dealing with the individual people of village. He used to tell Gram Bojaka that I need money from you. Apart from Gram Bojaka, there were other independent farmers known as Grihapati. So one Gram Bojaka was there. Then there were another farmers who were not that big as Gram Bojaka, but they also had a substantial chunk of land. So they were known as Grihapatis, and they were similar to smaller landowners. So they were not as big as Gram Bojika, but they had smaller chunk of land. And then there were men and women such as Dasa Karmakara. Dasa is a term used for servant. They did not own any land, and they had to earn their living by working on the fields owned by others. So since they didn't own any land of themselves, so they had to work on the land of other people. They had to work as laborers, as das. So they were named as Dasa Karmakara. So they were the das, and they were doing their work there. The earliest Tamil composition was known as Sangam literature. Apart from land holdings, there were another thing, Sangam. We need to remember, it is also an important question at times in examination. Sangam literature, Sangam were the texts that they were composed in 2300 years ago, sorry, 2300 years ago. What happened was, Sangam were the assemblies of poets. Sangam, we know, you must have heard of the Sangam of rivers, where two rivers meet. So here, this Sangam literature was actually the collection of poets. What used to happen in Tamil literature, people, the poets used to come, they used to sit together, they used to recite their poetries, they used to compile those poetries. So that's from where the name Sangao, and it ultimately became Sangam. It was actually assemblies known as Sangam of Poets, which were held in the city of Madurai. So in Madurai, these poets used to assemble, they used to compile their writings, and it is the earliest Tamil composition by the name Sangam literature. So if somebody asked you what is Sangam literature, we need to remember that sir, Sangam literature was the compilation of the poets which were taking place in certain assemblies of southern India. Then we came across certain cities. We, apart from Sangam, we have Jataka stories. These were composed by ordinary people and were written by Buddhist monks. So Buddhist monks, they were compiling these stories. These were the stories were composed by ordinary people and written and preserved by Buddhist monks. Other kinds of evidence to find about the life in some earlier cities or sculptures. Now we were discussing about villages and towns, but how we got to know about these villages and towns? So we were taking the help of literature. For example, we took the help of Sangam literature. We were taking the help of Jatakas. So Jatakas were the accounts written by the common people, but they were preserved by the Buddhist monks. Apart from this text and literature, we had certain sculptures which were carved out depicting the scenes of people life. So what people were doing, if they were practicing agriculture, if they were into any sort of occupation, it was carved on the piece of stone. So ultimately from that piece of stone we were able to identify that yeah, these things were happening. Then we got several travel accounts. What are the travel accounts? When somebody comes from a far off place, we'll talk about certain visitors. You must have heard about Fayan, you must have heard about uh, another visitors who came from various different locations. So their travel accounts, when they came to certain places, they wrote their travel accounts that I visited this particular part of India, I saw things happening like that. So another way of finding about these earlier cities were the accounts of sailors and travelers. People were traveling from one place to another. So there were sailors who were sailing from different parts of the ocean. So they used to write their account that I visited this particular place, I found this kingdom, I found the culture like that. Then we could understand things from the coins. We found punch marked coins which were used about 500 years ago. 500 years ago, people were using punch marked coins, and they were named like that because they were punched on metal, silver, or copper. So on a piece of metal, something was punched. That can be the impression of a king. That can be the name of the kingdom. That can be another important piece of information. It was punched on a piece of metal. That metal could be silver or copper. That's why these coins were named as punch marked coins. Then there were certain cities that were flourishing. Mathura was one of such cities. It was important because it was located on the crossroad of two major routes of travel. The trade from north to west to east and from north to south. So what was happening? The trade from northwest. I try to explain you with the help of a map. So this is present day India's map, but this entire region was part of India. So from northwest to east and from north to south, this way trade was taking place, and the confluence and the crossroad of these trade routes was found important city which was named as Mathura. It was an important destination. The one reason for its importance was it lied on the crossroad of both the trade routes. Mathura was also a production center for fine sculpture. So we could find n number of sculptures being produced in Mathura. So that's why it became important. These towns and these villages saw the use of pottery. So they had crafts and craft persons. People were making fine potteries known as northern black polished ware. Very important concept, northern black polished ware. So it was a pottery that was found in northern India, in the regions around Mathura, and they were polished black in color. That was, it was named as northern black polished ware. There were famous centers such as Varanasi in north and Madurai in south. So for certain important reasons, apart from cities like Mathura, we had Varanasi in north, we had Madurai in south, and Madurai was the town where this Sangam literature was compiled. So these type of towns and villages become really important. Then there was an important coastal settlement by the name Arikamedu. Sir, it is present day Puducherry. So Puducherry, its ancient name was Arikamedu. Between 2200 and 1900 years ago, Arikamedu was a coastal settlement where ships unloaded goods from distant lands. So by this time, people from different parts of the world, they started sailing from one part to another. They were taking the help of sea routes. They were traveling through the sea, and whenever they used to reach a coastal town, Arikamedu was one such important coastal town, the present day UT of Puducherry, where these people used to unload goods that was coming from distant areas. Massive brick structures which have been found at this site. There they could be warehouses. So what happened? Arikamedu was a site where things were unloaded from the ships. If something was coming from far off place, maybe somewhere from Central Asia, somewhere from another parts of the world, the goods were coming, so they were to be unloaded at Arikamedu, and simultaneously certain things were to be loaded from Arikamedu also. So just like how the modern day ports operate, what happened in any of the port, you talk about Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust, you talk about Adani Port, you talk about the Vishakhapatnam Port, whatsoever is happening here, a ship comes from a distant place, goods are unloaded and certain goods are loaded, and it goes back on its voyage. Similarly, Arikamedu was used as a port, and Arikamedu, again, I'm time and again telling you, it is modern day Puducherry. So what was happening here? Arikamedu, around 2200 to 1900 years ago, here this area was used to load and unload the ships, and here we found massive brick structures which were used as warehouses, because we had to store the goods that were to be loaded, and we have to store those goods that were to be unloaded from the ship. So there were large warehouses, what we call as godowns today. You must have seen any business establishment, they hold large godowns where they can dump their goods. So in a similar fashion, the massive warehouses were constructed at Arikamedu. So we talked about this, that around 3000 years ago, Indian subcontinent started the use of iron. People started making tools some 2500 years ago. With the help of tools, the system of transplantation increased. I told you about this in last class, that during certain period rice transplantation took place. What is rice transplantation? These rice saplings are grown in a smaller field, and then they are transported to a bigger field. So with the help of tools, that transplantation became easier. Irrigation also came into use, because with the help of tools, now you could make drains from a river. So if there was a field and a river was flowing aside it, what was happening there, that a small drain could be dug from that river to the field, and ultimately irrigation came into use. In Tamil region, as we talked about, there were three kinds of people: the large landowners, the plowmen, and the landless laborers who were slaves. In similarly, in northern India, we had independent farmers, we had village headmen, we had Jataka stories that were written by ordinary people and protected by Buddhist monks, which gave light on the life of people in this time. So what people were doing in during those times, it was told in Jataka stories. Then we had Sangam literature. We found ring wells, the rows of pots and ceramic rings arranged. So what was happening? The ceramic rings were arranged together like that. It were found in several cities, and it is believed that they may be used as toilets or drains or garbage dumps. So people could use them for toilets purpose, people could use them as drains or even for garbage dumps. So these things were found during these times in towns like Mathura and other. There were accounts of sailors and travelers who came from far off places. Unknown Greek sailor tells the story or tells the account of Bharuch. Sir, Bharuch is a area in present day Gujarat at Gulf of Kutch, a small passage of water through which ships used to sail. So this Bharuch, you can identify it on the map. It's on the Gulf of Kutch in Gujarat. So Bharuch was a town of which an unknown sailor, we don't know who that sailor was, but he has written about that town. Archaeologists have found several coins belonging to this period. The designs were punched on the coins, so that's why they were known as punch marked coins. Mathura was an important settlement around 2500 years ago. I told you it was located on the crossroad of two important travel and trade routes. It became the capital of Kushana Empire somewhere around 2000 years ago, and was also an important religious center. Even today, also Mathura and Vrindavan, they form one of the most important religious destinations in the country. So this was the chapter number 8 from class 6th NCERT, which talked about the towns and villages that were thriving during those times, somewhere around 3000 to 200 to 2500 years ago. I hope we are clear with this. So in this similar way, you will be getting regular NCERT classes for all the subjects. We'll be covering NCERTs for each and every subject for UPSC. You need to join us in this classes. You need to subscribe to this channel. If you haven't subscribed, you have to join us on Telegram by the name IAS Icons. You will find this channel by the name IAS Icons on Telegram, where we'll be providing you the PDFs for these lectures. Thank you very much. All the best. Keep working hard. Bye bye. Take care. Jai Hind.